Hello everyone, welcome to the sixth lesson in which we'll see the outlining and coloring of the continents. In this lesson, we'll see how everything is organized. First, we have the tectonic plates and the arrows, which we'll place in the bottom and hide them so we don't see them. We have the lines and the continent's background, see? Okay, we'll select the continent layer here and we'll block the transparency layer. We'll do this because we want to take a green color and paint the black part green. So we'll turn up the opacity of the brush and we paint with any shade of green we want. Okay, this is completely at your discretion. And we paint all these continents until all of this is full of green. That's it. Now we're going to unlock the transparent pixels. Then double click on the layer to open the layer style window. Okay, here are several options as we saw before, and if we select the stroke option, we can select its size. So let's select a different color so we can differentiate it from the background. We'll select this one for now, and as I was saying, in size we can modify this factor, the thickness of the stroke, and here in position we can choose if this stroke runs inside, outside or centered around the continents. See the difference between setting it to each option? We want it on the inside so we get more empty spaces and it looks better. Now we change the color to a darker green in order to make the outline in this definitive color. Okay, so we'll set the size to 7 and we hit OK. Alright, now we still have the line layer, but don't worry about that because we'll use it later for something else. Now we'll select the background layer and we'll paint it with a blue tone. You can choose any shade of blue you like. I'll choose this one. And using the paint bucket tool, pressing G, we'll paint the background blue. Then we go to the line layer, double click on it, and go to the stroke option again. And we'll do something similar to what we just did. Notice in size, we can choose a size for all the line. So we'll use this outline to create the lighter blue tone perceived in the coasts of all the continents, okay? Like those coral zones, obviously more elevated of the surface. This way, in blend mode, we can choose different options, so we can choose the one we see fit. Notice we have lots of options, and we can also lower the opacity so we can generate this coastline. See? I'll leave it at normal. And I'll hit OK, so we get this as a result. We can now perceive the coastline since it's lighter. Alright, the next step is to color these continents according to the climates we have in our planet. Okay? We'll base these in the tropics to determine the color these continents will have. So we already know generally that our planet is composed of 3 geographical zones, 1 torrid zone, 2 temperate zones, and 2 frigid zones. So considering this, we'll go back to Photoshop and we'll enable the rulers. Clicking on View Rulers will enable or disable them, and using them will mark the tropics. Okay, so we enable it, and from here, like this, we keep dragging to generate these guidelines, and by eye, we'll place them according to the tropics. North and south zones, or the furthest from the center, will be the coolest, and the center parts will be hotter. So by eye, more or less, we'll place them. Now, as we saw before, we know the north and south parts, or the farthest from the center, are the coldest. So we have here the North Pole and the South Pole, and the center parts will be the hottest parts. So what we have to do now is take the continents layer, okay? And we're going to click this icon here to lock the transparent pixels. Now we'll take the white color and we'll start painting white the parts that are farthest from the center. So we'll grab a large brush, we'll lower its opacity, and we'll start painting white the most northern and southern parts. Just like in our planet, these zones will be more covered in snow. This way we paint the north, till here more or less, and then we'll paint the south. Notice that in the south we don't have as many ice parts as in the north. Then with the eyedropper or the Alt key we can slightly change the tones, or in this case choose a warmer tone to paint the center part, which will be the savanna or the desert, because the temperature there will be higher. So the part between the snow and the torrid zone will be a different green because it'll be the temperate zones. So around here we'll paint the temperate zones. Notice we're using a normal brush with a lower opacity, and when we're done with all these colors we'll use the mixer brush tool to finish mixing these colors properly. So little by little, using the eyedropper, we select the colors and keep painting one on top of the other with low opacity in order to start mixing these colors and generating this gradient from colder to warmer. Alright, the next step is to select the mixer brush tool. This brush will let us select the colors with the Alt key and mix them with the adjacent colors. So let's paint and mix all these tones. This way the resulting color will be more uniform and better integrated, both in the center parts and the coldest parts, obviously. Using Control plus comma, we can hide these guides. See, in the north part, I take the white color and mix it with the green in order to get some grayer tones. I'm going to fast forward this part. Take a look at the values on top, which I didn't modify at all. So use these same numbers and do the same with your continents. Okay? We have to achieve mixing all the colors and getting these gradients in the map. Okay, so now we're going to unlock the transparent pixels and we're going to double click to enable the layer styles. We'll activate inner glow, which let us create some kind of inner glow, obviously. Modifying the different sliders you see, we can achieve a more or less exaggerated effect or opacity. See? If we modify noise, we put some grain on the border. Somehow, what we're doing is something similar to what we did with the coastline, but in this case, with the continent itself. We choose a color more similar to the one in the photo or a more dark coffee tone. Okay, so we visualize this coastline, but from the continent itself. We can choose different blend modes as before to see the effects they create. Basically, you can tweak all these options a bit in order to choose whatever you want. And from here, we can also invert the effect. Let's leave it like this more or less. And whenever we're done, we'll hit OK. Alright, now we have to select again the stroke and color it like the inner glow or similar. So let's hit color, and with the eyedropper, we select approximately the inner glow color and select the similar color to the one in the other effect. So now hit OK, and we'll already have this built. Alright, so now that we know how to modify the layer styles and the strokes and gradients like inner glow Well, we can play around with these factors to, for example, in the line layer, enable other parameters like this one here, outer glow, and toy around to check the results we can get. Here, for example, we can do something similar to what we did before with the coastline, but getting a different color, like a bit bluer, in order to exaggerate the effect. Now I want you to investigate all these parameters that we altered before so you can create your own gradient in the coastline. If then we need to change the color of the sea, for example, we just select this layer and we can paint the sea slightly different. Notice how the coastline is wider, like more exaggerated. So from the sea itself, we can select another color. I'm going to select, let's see, this one here. At any point, we can go back to the layer style window, and since this is a non-destructive edition, we can modify anything. Disable the effect, enable it, change the color, make it more intense, etc. Okay, so once we've toyed around enough with all these options, the results should be something similar to what you see here. See the intensity of the colors, the gradients, the coast parts, which are a bit cleaner. We want something similar to these in order to have a good base which we can work on. So in the next video, we'll see the riverbeds and the lakes that are formed in all these continents. So I'll see you in a bit.